Hello and welcome to Ascension Arcana Tarot. This is Christine with a weekly reading for September 29th. This is a general collective reading, so as always, please take what resonates and leave the rest behind. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. I'm going to be pulling on the eclipse hopefully tomorrow evening, so that'll be fun. It's our last eclipse of this eclipse season. I think the next one is going to be March of next year. So cool. We get like a little 6-month break and then we're back into that awesome eclipse change energy. So for our weekly reading this week, God, what do my viewers need to know? I can hear my voice. I'm like so stuffy. I feel like my allergies have come back around. So apologies for being sniffly and stuffy sounding. We have the King of Swords. I love this guy in this deck. I feel like he's such a badass. Like, he doesn't want anybody else's nonsense. He's just like the Frost King. I love him. The feeling I just get from him is like he's not going to take crap from anybody. So I don't know if maybe that's a vibe that you're in right now. Where you're just absolutely not tolerating like anybody else's nonsense, or maybe a vibe that it would be helpful for you to get in if you are letting in a lot of nonsense. We have the High Priestess here. Yeah, I feel like it's you not letting stuff in. I definitely feel that kind of closed off energy with her, the way that the hood is pulled over her. Like, she feels very cloaked and protected to me. And even like the birds on the bottom, that's funny, I never noticed that, but the way it's sort of spreading its wings out, it feels like protecting her, kind of setting a boundary around her. So this could be, I actually feel like these guys need to be next to each other. All right, so I'm feeling the King of Swords as like that Frost King, right? Like, he's not letting anything in. He is not letting anybody mess with him. And then the High Priestess has that same sort of closed off feeling, but let me think of how to say this. It's not like in a bad way. It's in a really appropriate way. Like, these guys to me feel like they have incredibly strong boundaries where they're just not willing to put up with nonsense. They are not going to leak their energy or give anything to any people, any situations that maybe like don't resonate for them or maybe aren't reciprocating. So these guys are absolutely not going to tolerate like a one-way relationship for sure. Yeah, it feels like with the High Priestess here, it feels like really, well, I guess both of them, I should say. The King of Swords to me would be like mental boundaries. So sort of inner mental discipline around like that sort of ego chatter, right? And then the High Priestess feels like psychic or energetic boundaries. So the two of them together just feel like impenetrable for me, their energy. That's like, it's really powerful. The Seven of Swords, the Page of Cups, and the Hierophant. Something that I like about this Seven of Swords, so in the traditional, like the Rider-Waite tarot, it's a man kind of like sneaking away from a camp. And I feel like there's nothing sneaky about this dragon. Like, I mean, he's there at night. I don't notice any people, so it looks like he's getting away with it. But he's a gigantic green dragon in the middle of this campsite, right? Like, there's nothing sneaky about him. If you peeked out of your tent, you would notice him. The feeling... Okay, so let me think of how to say this. The Page of Cups and the Hierophant, to me, are kind of energetically bound together, and the Seven of Swords is a little bit like a second part of the message. So the Page of Cups and the Hierophant speaks to me of like a great deal of really like connected spiritual innocence. I'm kind of not sure how to say that. Like, it feels to me like a vibe of you being very spiritual and kind of like like, I don't know how you would say it, almost like a child king type of feeling where like there's an inner child glowing inside of you that is still very innocent, even though you're like very wise. And even like look at the way that these two cards are both the same. Like this is the young man and this is the old man, and they're like the same to me. Like he's holding the cup. He looks like he's holding a little knife or like a little scythe that's like that crescent moon shape to cut whatever this plant is here. But they're like exactly the same. He's got a fish in one hand. He's got the plant in this hand. Like these two cards are welded together energetically. This speaks. I really don't know how to say that except like it's like a wise old person who has sort of like a childlike innocence about them, that sort of openness, that creativity, that humbleness of like being a child and just not knowing yet and kind of being open to that. And the Seven of Swords to me is feeling like someone kind of stealing in and trying to like take that from you. And I feel like it's important to say here, like in my spiritual practice, we believe that like no one can do something to you unless you're giving them permission to do it, basically. So I feel like these guys are advising like having those strong mental boundaries, those strong energetic boundaries. Like there may be someone kind of knocking at your door trying to take like this beautiful, like actualized peaceful spirituality from you. Like the flow of emotions here and the flow of peace and the flow of like connection with the divine feels very profound to me. So this guy's like over here knocking on the door, and I feel like what I'm seeing and hearing is like, just don't answer the door, right? Just keep the door closed. This person may come under the guise of like maybe offering something to you or wanting you to feel like maybe you need them somehow, but I don't feel like you do. I feel like you just keep that door closed and like you don't want to let that dragon in. Chariot, Two of Wands, and Seven of Wands. Chariot for me just feels like that sort of inner discipline and like willpower to sort of command. Like these horses are kind of wild, right? I feel like what's coming up for me is that if these horses saw this dragon, they would probably be terrified. And they probably would be like wild and trying to run away and like escape from whatever this is. I feel like it's some sort of ego illusion that's going to make you feel like, I don't know how to describe it. It just is like a stealing away feeling. I don't know how to give an example of what that could be. Maybe an example of this would be, okay, so what's coming up for me is like a work example. Let's say you have like a certain set of ethics that you guys are supposed to follow in your workplace. This would be a coworker maybe coming to you and sort of with drama trying to like drag you into like this plot or this like thing that they have going on that's like kind of ethically shady. So kind of pulling you from like your alignment and your innocence and your ethical code into whatever it is that they're doing. And I feel like it would be kind of in a tricky way. Like, I don't think that they are like evil. I think that they feel innocent about what they're doing, even though it's not really aligned, with like being honest. They somehow feel like justified in what they're doing. So kind of trying to pull you into it, almost like, well, if that person is so innocent and pure and I can get them to do what I'm doing, that means that what I'm doing must not really be that bad, right? And I feel like because of your kindness and your benevolence and your like wanting to help people, that will be the part of you that would kind of want to get like sucked into this plot or whatever. It's like such a weird thing to say, but I feel like that's maybe the best way that I can kind of explain it. And again, that King of Swords and the High Priestess is just saying no, like set those boundaries, keep that door shut, kind of stay in your lane, mind your business. So I feel like that's what this is. This Chariot would see that dragon and be like hightailing it out of there. These horses would not like that energy. So there may be a part of you like that intuitive kind of gut feeling, right? It's sort of like animalistic part that's left over from when we were like cave people or whatever, kind of wanting to run away from this situation. I feel like if you're in this collective, that could be a clue for you of what this situation is. I just feel I'm really attracted to this yellow for like the solar plexus chakra, and that you're just going to feel it kind of like a punch in the gut. That'll be like your intuitive clue kind of. And then this guy, the charioteer, he's basically the emperor who drives the chariot, just really being in command of himself and being in control of himself. Like these two cards to me feel very commanding. They're very in themselves. They're not going to budge from having those strong boundaries. They're not going to budge away from like their own standards or ethical code of conduct, right? So that's this part of you kind of maybe feeling that pull towards this situation, but then almost feeling like that psychic gut punch, right, in your solar plexus chakra, and kind of reining that part of you in and getting control back of it and being like, nope, I'm not going to get involved in this. And I feel like that's what the Two of Wands and the Seven of Wands are speaking to as well. So the Two of Wands is that that sort of turning point, that making a decision, right? That there are two paths before you. There's the path that this Seven of Swords energy is kind of trying to lead you down, right? Kind of away from your innocence and your ethics. And then there's this path of you standing in your truth and being firm with what resonates for you and saying, no, I'm absolutely not deviating from that. And like, it feels to me like there's a really obvious choice that is in alignment with your highest self. Like, as always, you use your free will, right? But it does feel like there's one choice that's going to feel good to you, which is you kind of standing in your innocence and having those boundaries, and then getting sucked into this like Seven of Swords situation is the one that is kind of deviating, right, from love and from your true self and your values and all of that. And the Seven of Wands is just this lady is kind of like beating off these goblins or gnomes or whatever. I feel like that might be what some of this ego chatter feels like. So this Seven of Swords, like I said, it's not going to come in as something evil. I don't feel like it's going to come in as something that's that obviously evil. But it's definitely aligned with ego and not with love. So I feel like you might have some internal chatter that you sort of have to set those boundaries with, right? These little goblin things are reminding me of ego. So maybe ego might say like, oh, you didn't help so-and-so, and then they got in trouble and they lost their job, or like, oh, now they're on suspension, or oh, the situation unfolded this way, and if only you had helped them, then it would have, gone better or gone differently. I feel like that's how ego might poke at you here, is by trying to kind of like bully you into taking responsibility for this person's misaligned choices, right? Like, this dragon is stealing these swords in this camp at night all by itself. Like, if that's not your vibe and you don't want to be involved with something like that, don't get involved with it. That dragon is making its own choices, and you are not responsible for the behaviors and choices of somebody else. So I feel like this is actually a really big lesson for you in terms of aligning with your true self, aligning with your highest self, and really setting some firm boundaries. Almost like recognizing your value that you have the right to protect like your innocence. And I wish I could think of how else to describe this energy. There's something so pure and so innocent about you and like your soul. Like the King of Swords, High Priestess, Page of Cups, and Hierophant, I am reading those as your soul, and it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. You're like so peaceful and so connected to spirit. I feel like people may even be like jealous of that, or what I'm seeing is like someone trying to knock you off a pedestal. So it's like you have something, so you have a connection with the divine that is so pure and so beautiful and kind of like a peaceful self-possession about you. And I feel like other people who maybe are envious of that or like don't know how to cultivate that for themselves, they might kind of want to like see you fail, and kind of knock you off a pedestal. That's definitely an energy that's here. And again, like you don't have to let them. I literally, there's like this old spiritual song called Shut De Do that we sang when I was in high school. And it's about shutting the door against the devil. And it was like a song that was sung by slaves. So the devil was actually like the white masters, and they were saying like, shut the door and keep that noise out of here. Like keep yourself safe, right? That song keeps playing in my head, and the image of just like shutting the door, like just don't even let this in. Just don't even let it in. And I think recognizing that you have the right to do that, like you may be, because of this kind of innocence vibe, you may be the type of person who's just very trusting. And maybe you trust that like other people are as kind and as good as you are. So maybe you're not used to questioning like the motives of others, or having like this sort of scheming energy, because that's just not how you work. I definitely don't feel that from like any of this. But I feel like being able to recognize that is sort of like a leveling up for you in a way. What advice do you have here? I randomly looked at the video and it said 1717. So I don't know if that number is important to any of you. I just feel called to say that. We have the Knight of Swords. Yeah, that dude's just cutting out the BS. I feel like it's more of that energy. Even he's on like this 3-horned bull creature, and there's like some cranes. That's actually really cool. He looks like this vengeful. He actually is kind of earthy. That's interesting that it's the swords. A bull would be like an earth symbol to me. Yeah, all of that I feel like is he's just cutting out the BS. It's like a part of you that is very logical and just sort of, it's like if your tendency would be to jump in and help and people please and like fix other people's messes or like save others from getting into trouble, I feel like this is a part of you just stepping in and slicing through that and being like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. It feels really clear, like a clear severing of this pattern. And it feels like it's cutting off an energy leak. So running around and trying to rescue everyone all the time, that's such a huge energy leak. I really feel the message of you staying in your lane. The Six of Swords to me feels like peace. Like you're moving from a place where you're running around and cleaning up everybody's messes and solving everybody's problems. And now all of a sudden you're by yourself. And you got really clear that you're not going to do that anymore, and you get to move on to like a more peaceful situation. Do you have any more advice for my viewers here? Sweet. We have the Three of Cups. I feel like this is teaching you kind of to call in positive friendships. Like whoever this Seven of Swords represents, if it's like a person or a situation for you, it's not healthy. And you have such a strong divine connection. Like, you deserve to have divine friendships. You don't need any sort of toxic energy in your life. I just really feel like whoever's in this collective, you've been in the process of getting really clear on this. I don't think this will be like shocking to you or anything like that. I kind of think this is you when you're at the point where you're like, that's it, enough is enough, right? And then you're ready, kind of like this Knight of Swords, to come in and just like slice all this nonsense out. But recognizing that when you remove sort of this toxic energy, when you cut this out of your life, you make space for this to come in, like really beautiful divine friendships that are aligned with your highest good and your highest self. It's really lovely. So it almost feels like the energy leak that's been happening over here. Once you sever it, you get to use that great energy, right, to build like some special friendships. We have the Ace of Swords. I love that. It's Excalibur. I don't know if that will mean anything to anybody. I don't know that I've pulled this card from this deck yet. But the story of King Arthur and Lancelot and Guinevere. We had a couple flipping out here. Hang on a sec. We have the Ace of Swords. We have the Tower. And we have the Empress. That's very sweet. I love that. Yeah, I feel like the Tower... It's like I said with the Knight of Swords, how he just comes in and like slices it and is like, that's it, forget it, I'm done with this now. The Tower feels like that sort of sudden, abrupt ending. So like I said, I feel like this situation has been building, right? The situation itself doesn't feel sudden. It feels like it's been building. Over time, you're like, kind of just have like this toxic person or situation or influence until you get to this point, like I said, where you're like, that's it, enough is enough, right? So the Tower really isn't representing the situation so much as it's representing a turning point for you, where the situation has been building up and you're like, that's it, forget it, I can't take this anymore. This is too toxic, it's leaking too much of my energy, I'm running around fixing this situation for this person all the time. I'm just not going to do it anymore, right? So I feel like that Ace of Swords is getting that clarity. And I also just saw in my mind's eye, like you pulling the sword out of the stone, which I feel like is you taking your power back. Like you getting empowered, kind of claiming your power here and saying like, no, I'm not going to waste like my goodness and my sweetness and my influence on this dragon who's just coming into camp and like stealing stuff and making terrible life choices, right? Like you're just not going to do it anymore. So claiming your power back from that, and the gentleness and the sweetness and like the receiving power that you get from that. This card feels very grounded to me, very gentle, very sweet. She's a similar vibe as like the Three of Cups. I feel like she would just jump in and like join their dance or whatever. So really, like if this resonates for you, I just am really seeing her as like divine feminine energy, which is very nurturing. It's very caring. It's very grounded. It's very creative, very gentle and like receptive. So I'm feeling that like when you set these boundaries here and you really claim your value and your energy, and you don't have to be involved with this like Seven of Swords person or situation anymore, it really lets you just relax into receiving like everything wonderful from the universe. That's awesome. This is a cool message. I feel like if you're in this collective too, even as you're hearing me, you're going to be like, thank God this situation is like coming to a close. I feel like a feeling of relief and you've just had it and you're ready to just be done with it. It's really cool. I feel like you're leveling up in terms of like valuing yourself by setting these boundaries. I was going to say responsibilities. That was sort of like a funny word fumble. So that might have to do with responsibilities for some of you, but setting these boundaries around your value. Like your energy is very special and it's very pure, and you don't need to share it with anyone who would try to take from you or manipulate you, right? Or like suck you into their misdeeds or whatever, right? Like you don't need that. We have luck is on your side, new moon in Sagittarius. Awesome. We have the new moon coming up in a couple days, but it is in, well, I didn't write it down. I think I read that it's in Libra. It's not in Sagittarius, but I love that. Sagittarius season's coming up kind of soon too. Luck is on your side. Yeah, I feel like that's resonating for me with the Chariot card. Like this is big time a card of forward movement and success through like that fierce determination and self-control. And I feel like you are finally ready for that. Like you haven't been ready for that previously, but because you're at this point where you're like, you know, screaming because you're so sick of this nonsense, right? You're ready to finally choose like a direction to go in. I just see you like galloping down that path. But the Chariot is a card of success. So once you set that self-control, that self-discipline, that determination, it's like nothing can stand in your way. So I feel like once you reach that point where you're coming in here and you're like, forget it, I'm just done with this. Like, it's going to be pretty easy for you. I don't get the feeling that there's going to be any obstacles standing in your way. Do you have any other advice? Yeah, I had a feeling there was one more. It says, be bold and make the first move. Cardinal Moon. Nice. I don't know what that will mean. So as always, use your own judgment, your own intuition, and make your own decisions. It is relating to the Chariot card again for me, just that boldness. Yeah, I feel like if there is a move to be made kind of around this Seven of Swords situation, again, like I said, it's probably going to be just setting boundaries or like not even opening that door, right? And I know that's just kind of a visual, right? Or like a story of saying it. So I don't think it's going to be like a literal door, but there's something there about keeping yourself on one side of this boundary and keeping this other energy on the other side. But it does feel like boldness. Like I do feel like you're a very kind soul and you're probably a very gentle person. And I don't get the feeling that you're used to telling people like, forget it, I'm not going to help you. So that will be bold for you. It will be something that feels new and different and maybe even a little bit uncomfortable. But I do feel like it's appropriate. Like this energy definitely feels like it's trying to take from you. It's not helping you, and it doesn't have your best interests at heart at all. And then, like I said, being able to move into this peaceful place, open up space within your consciousness for these like really sweet divine friendships and even your own sweet self. Like once you have those safe boundaries placed, and you're kind of protected behind them, like just being able to relax and receive and being like the gentle, kind, sweet soul that you are. It feels really beautiful. So that feels very complete to me. I hope that this was helpful to anyone. As always, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment, as all of those things help me as I'm growing my channel. And I hope to see you guys in my next reading. Bye.